Dames en heren, de beste man bijt niet. Neem gerust vooraan plaats.
I will. You hear me? No? Is this better? I'll speak a little bit. Oh, this is perfect. This is perfect. Hopefully, not too much noise for the rest. To be honest, I hate these things. I normally just use my voice, but thank you. My name is Peter Lijnse. Yes, I am originally Dutch, so ik kan Nederlands praten, maar 20 years in Canada. The last 20 years is it's so much easier to talk about business topics in English. I've noticed these last 2 weeks that I've been here that it's easier to that it's easy to do just things around simple things for family, etc. with Dutch, but English I always come back to this. I am going to talk about something that I hope I'm not going to kick out at the end, because one of the challenges I have is I work actually with a lot of business relationship management teams that have totally different perspectives sometimes maybe on what some of you do as service managers or being a service provider. And quite often they really don't care about that side. I originally come from the IT service management side. I did my ITIL. I started working with ITIL in 1988, 89 or something like that. I did my service manager exam, one of the first ones in England in 1992. One of my biggest things was over time was a little bit of the frustration with what we call business IT alignment, and I'm going to talk about that. As you can see, I have a hobby basically which is playing trombone, so I just put the picture. We had photos at the office, so I had something like, I should just put it on there. I'll come back to another one as well. So I play jazz mainly. So I'm a managing partner of Instrumental BRM. Instrumental BRM is a new brand we put. I also am a managing partner of another company which is Service Management Art, which was more on the ITIL space. One of the things is that I do that, so that's purely focused on BRM consulting education. Since 3 years now, I also work with the BRM Institute as one of their advisors. And I also am helping them with developing some of the new BRM body of knowledge. So that's a little bit about me. What is business relationship management? Let me start with that, because before I actually start talking about, okay, what is the relationship to IT service management, etc., I want to talk about what is business relationship management. Business relationship management stimulates services and shapes business demand. Yeah, I love the presentation from David Cannon. I know David for a long time. We used to work together, and he set a lot of things up for me that I had some like, great, I can skip that slide now. So that was awesome. But it's shaping business demand for providers' assets and ensures that the potential business value is from those assets is captured, optimized, and recognized. As you can see, there is not a word service in here. That is very much because the business relationship managers quite often don't talk about services. They talk about the technology and assets and how to actually deliver that. Now, and I see that Paul's sitting here suddenly. Did they kick you out there or so? Yeah, they kicked you out. Okay, good. So they, one of the things is since the beginning, mid-90s, we've been talking about business IT alignment. And there was a wonderful book called that in the ITIL series at that moment called Understanding and Improving that started talking about business IT alignment. Peter Weil actually started doing a lot of work on business and IT alignment, and there's a lot of different organizations that did that. So, to be honest, we have in the service management space for the last 10 years, 15 years at least, talked about business IT alignment, but we were basically with our head in the sand because we use the word, but we never use it. I always say business IT alignment is not even the right word. Because if you look at your alignment of your cars on wheels on your car. So you have wheels on your car that need to be aligned. Yeah, you do not want to get your wheels getting close together continuously. Yeah, you like to just have your wheels going straight next to each other, but you don't want them to touch. Yeah. So the thing is, business IT alignment is already a wrong word if you look at it from that perspective. We now actually start using more and more business IT convergence. So we start seeing that the business and IT actually gets together. I do see indeed that in the next 5 to 10 years, I do not think we really have IT departments anymore. We're starting to go look at and converge business and IT. And that's what we're doing with Business Relationship Management Institute as well. Now, that means we start looking at different language. I really drive within the business relationship management space around everything around value. Everything needs to be value. And one of the things that happens with value is that it shows you that there is a different vision of life. I challenge any IT service management person, if you use a sentence or a statement that has the word service in there, change that word service to value, change the statement so it still makes sense. And you will find that you will start to get that perspective on what is value. And it's not an easy thing to do. But if I saw the NS one this morning. They're not talking about we are providing an access card basically, or we're not providing something that to actually get onto the train. No, it's around the value, the ease of use, etc. So that's one of the things I work with a lot of organizations, where we're starting to focus the organization way more on the value principles, and that's shaping that demand. That means a different mindset also happens in the business relationship management side around change of organizations. We start seeing more and more that the business relationship management get into the situation that they talk about value, but they do that through behavioral-based management. They start to change behavior in the organization. They start looking at informal social networks. Specifically the direct and control environments that a lot of us are still working in does not work from a BRM perspective, because you need to focus the whole organization on value. So we see more distributed leadership, we see more, like I said, behavioral-based management. And behavior is a key item for a lot of these changes. Now, so I already talked a little bit about this, but one of the things we have in the service management space, everything is about services. Yeah? I mean, if I read the ITIL books, it's around service, and it comes by. And sometimes we say, oh yeah, and don't forget to link to the business. Don't forget to talk about value. In service management, we have quite often the definition, the way to define a service is by saying it has value, outcomes, cost, and risk. So we see value as a component of the service. When I talk, and this is the different perspective, when I talk to business relationship management, we talk about value. Oh yeah, and we might need a service to actually deliver it. Yeah? That's an afterthought. So we see a totally different perspective, which is interesting because that drives a totally different way of looking at IT and how the use of the technology. So this is part of the presentation I'm doing is focusing that on that, defining that value. And I need to explain to that to you, but I have several CIOs that say to their business relationship manager, you are not allowed to use two words. The one word is service, and the other one, I never want to hear the word customer. You are working with business partners, which basically means you're working with partners in the business. Never say the word customer, because you put up a barrier. And that is the things that we work on which makes it very interesting, actually. It took me a couple of years, I have to admit. In the beginning, I had some like, I can't talk about services anymore. I've talked about services for 20 years. Yeah, it's just like, really how I'm going to do this. We're starting to get there now. One of the things is, it was interesting when when David put a plan, build, run. I was like, okay, do I need to delete this slide now out of my presentation or not? But I'm still going to use it. One of the things is we have on the business side a lot of different people that we're actually talk to. On the IT side, we have a lot of different groups. We have project management, we have delivery management, we have business relationship management, etc. If I look at a simple plan, build, run model, I actually do see that there is relationships everywhere. Now, when I work with a business relationship management team, that might be way more on that strategic level. We actually do a lot of strategic work with them. When we actually get to the operational side, it's like, yeah, okay, service delivery can take care of that. Yeah, it's which is not a good thing as well. Sometimes we miss that. What I do see is that the business relationship management scope is through this whole life cycle of plan, build, and run, and need to make sure that we have great relationships across. That means a business relationship manager, if you have that role, is not someone that is a single point of contact. They are focusing the organization on value and on the business. So there is a relationship model set up by the Business Relationship Management Institute. I know this is way too small. Yeah, you can get the slides, etc. And I actually have a few. We do BRM training, and we have some. We normally build posters. Sorry. So we actually have posters with all these models, etc. on there. I got a few of them with me printed. If someone is interested, but I can also get you a link to the PDF for this. This model is focused on the relationship between the business and the provider. Now, one of the challenges is we go through different maturity models along the way. We start quite often in an ad hoc situation. We have the business just asking for things whenever they think, loudest in, first out. Eventually we become order takers, and a lot of IT organizations are in that order taker role, unfortunately. The order taker role means from a business perspective, I engage the provider when I need something. I need this. Can you do this? No, then I'll go somewhere else. Yeah. On the provider side, the frustration, I need to be predictable, but I'm actually have no clue when the business actually is coming with something. Now, eventually we start getting to a service provider. We're actually getting a little bit of a better relationship. And interesting enough, a lot of service managers see being a service provider as a goal. This is what I'm going to be when I grow up. Yeah? I'm currently an order taker. I know that. I'm actually a little bit frustrated with that, so I'm going to put some restrictions on the customer by actually putting a service level agreement in place, and starting defining services. And it's very an inside-out look quite often. But to be honest, from a BRM perspective, business couldn't care less about a service provider. They can get a service provider anywhere. So what we see with BRM, we're starting to see an interest in being that trusted advisor to strategic partner. I'm working with BRM teams to get to that strategic partnership where the business and IT is converged. And when you saw in David Cannon's presentation that you're either in the business or in the basement or in the cloud, this directly links to that. Because if you cannot become that strategic partner, you will be out of a job very quickly. So we use this quite often to actually assess where people are to a certain extent, and then try to actually work with them. The interesting thing is this is about behavior. An order taker will just take anything. I normally say an order taker is going to McDonald's. Yeah? If I go to McDonald's and I walk in and then the teenager is standing there, they're actually to help me. And I'm going in and say, what would you recommend? Yeah? What is good today? they will look at you and have some like, I don't know, yeah, whatever is on the board, yeah? It's that order taker role. If I go to an high-end restaurant, I might actually even not use that. I might actually say to the chef, just surprise me. I don't like these and these ingredients. For the rest, surprise me, whatever you're going to give me. I trust you completely that we together will have that good experience. And I think this is the difference between that order taker and strategic partnership. That means two things. IT needs to change their mindset, need to show different behavior, significantly different behavior. The business does need to do that as well. Because if the business doesn't change their behavior, if they see you constantly as an order taker, you can never become that strategic partner. Behavior really matters in this case. I make BRM videos. My marketing company has some like, you need to make videos. Okay, good, I'll make videos. So we find eventually a way to actually use the acronym BRM, and we find different combinations of words actually. So this was one of them. Behavior really matters. It's really important to actually start looking at that. In the converged situation, in that strategic partnership, there is a shared accountability for value creation and innovation. Create a value and innovation. And we see that the focus is completely on value. That means that if we start looking at organizations, how can we further develop this? We need to get a better understanding of demand and supply. And demand and supply means, and again, this is a way too detailed slide. I'm not going to go through the details. This is normally in the course I teach, is about a 45-minute discussion. So I'm not going to do that. But you see here on the demand side, very much a difference in demand from more foundational systems and cost savings, all the way to innovation. The demand is there. In the supply side, we need to be able to meet that. Now, even on the higher levels, where there is innovation required, and you saw that this morning from David Cannon as well, you see the fact that you still need to have those foundational systems in place. I don't like organizations using, I'm really against bimodal IT. I think it's absolutely not going to work. I've seen several examples where it completely fails. I think that multi-speed is one thing. One of the things I started to actually see is that we're seeing concepts like pioneers, settlers, and town planners. That was developed by, partly developed by Simon Wardley. Really, you have pioneers that actually build new innovative ideas. Innovation happens close to the business. Innovation happens when you're in the business and sitting with the business. The rest becomes all commoditized. Yeah, this is becoming commodity. And you're trying to actually get it out, making it as cheap as possible. Now, one of the things that, I'm not going into a lot of detail on this one. The next part is around, okay, how do you now get that value focus? That means I need to start thinking about what is value. This is sources of value. I started doing research on this, and this is one way. There's a lot of different ways of looking at it. And what I do with BRMs is actually saying, okay, look, you have internal to the organization value and you have external value. Which means I need to be able to say, okay, is this for the customers of my enterprise? Or is this a value for the business unit I'm working with, the business partners? I have 4 levels here. I have foundational things. I need to do risk mitigation. I need to do maintenance. That is still valuable because it's actually preventing me from making mistakes. I can also say I need to maintain the customer experience. The customer experience they have right now, I need to be able to actually keep that. If I start looking at process improvement, I'm way more focused on internal process efficiency and effectiveness, or improving the customer interaction on how they interact with us. Yeah, that's both these processes. We start seeing that's very transactional, not a lot of value in that. There is value in that, but very limited value sometimes, because it's already commodity in a lot of cases. What we see now is we're starting to look at improving decision making. How can I make better decisions in the business? Which means I need to ask totally different questions, a totally different stakeholder group. I can also improve decision making for customers. If you look at Amazon, for instance, as an example, you buy a book and it always has underneath, other people bought this. That is improved decision making, because you will never get that at a bookstore unless you talk to the right person and say, well, other people actually bought this. They rarely do this. It's called upselling, but it's also better decision making. Innovation, transforming the way you do business, or transforming the customer experience and the way the customers of your organization actually change. So these are different sources of value. With BRMs, we work with the different questions they need to ask for each of these sources of value, so that they have a better understanding what is really value. I can tell you that improved decision making, for instance, it's great value for the organization, but it could actually have a negative value to someone in a process because they now need to capture more. So they spend more time on that, but the value is somewhere else. So if you do this, you actually throw all these ideas in a funnel. You go from ideas to opportunities to a value plan. We actually built an actual value plan with organizations. The value plan is really focused on measurement of value. So I work with BRM teams to measure value. I had some great experiences with some BRM teams where it took a workshop basically to get value for one project and to get an idea what value could be. And it's interesting to see how difficult that is for us. In this case, it was the project managers that had different tools, and a lot of the challenges they had was that they wanted to have one new tool to actually get all the resources and risk, etc., captured for projects, and these were business projects. The challenge was that how do you show the value of that? One of the things we worked on in measurements was to see how many projects were now escalated based on the fact that people made mistake in the previous system because of copying of information, etc. And it was a very manual process to actually get the value there. But it was a great example of how we could show basically value. The other challenge with this is that we quite often try to do everything from an economical perspective. Yeah, it needs to be a return on investments, etc. Well, nowadays, what is a return on investment? After 3 years, no one is going to look back to see if we actually had a return on investment. After 3 years, everyone has to say, yeah, did you forget that? But what about, for instance, psychological value? And we take that into account as well. If your staff or your customers are happier, they might not have increased productivity. They might not have better decision-making capability, but they're just happier based on the fact that it's easier to work. That has value as well. So we're trying to actually quantify some of those kind of things. Then you get into build and test, and as you can see, it's a really small arrow. We don't care about that. That someone else needs to do that. We check that quite often, and we update the value plan along the way to make sure that it doesn't break. That means that we're actually going down into value optimization. One of my biggest challenges, a project is finished and we throw it over to the customers, and then some of you will say, yeah, we have continual service improvement. The problem is I built specifically value optimization teams. So I actually, after the project is finished, I'm getting the business partner and the BRM and a few select people to actually look at value optimization. That is purely driving towards, are we making the measurements? I mean, we had certain value dials, etc. Are we actually realizing the value? So some of the measurements will actually show that, and we'll actually work on that to actually get through that. The fact is, eventually, it becomes business as usual. This is happening a lot with IT. We get used to this. When I got back here in Canada with last week Monday after a 9-hour flight from Calgary, I'm not at my best. Trying to figure out your Dutch railway system was not a favorite thing, I can tell you that. Because you have no clue. As a tourist, you actually have some like, now what, yeah? So you go to the, I saw one here actually, and I'm looking at it, okay, well, I need to get to Amsterdam and Zuid, and have some like, how do I do this? Yeah. Oh, apparently I can buy a ticket. But then there's also around, okay, I see all different kind of people swiping things, and it's like, I have no clue what these guys are doing. So I had to ask my sister the next day, it's like, tell me, how do you do this? She gave me one of those chip cards, and then I made mistakes with that as well. So, but it's business as usual for you. For me, it's brand new. Now I have some, this is great. This is wow, yeah. We don't have that in Calgary. You buy the little booklets of tickets at the grocery store that you stamp before you go into the...
What's a grocery store? We don't have them anymore.
Yeah. We still have grocery stores. They're just open 24 hours. Yeah. Yeah. But it's business as usual. Yeah. It's for you. It's business as usual. But it's still value needs to be optimized because there might be more things we can actually do. So this is one thing. Value optimization. This is all about creating value. Your biggest challenge is value leakage. I see two different things. I have value creation and I have value leakage. Value leakage is one of the biggest challenges because that's where all your incidents come in play, etc. By the way, I think incidents is any reporting you do as an IT organization. I don't know what it is, but you report only negative things. You only report on, okay, look, we had 97% availability, and I always have something like, okay, what happened to the 3%? Yeah. It's negative. It's like you don't show your successes, and actually I see a lot of communication happening in organizations now where the successes of of IT are being shown. Okay, this is the value we created, and that's what we work on with BRMs. Show the value that is created when it actually happens, not 3 years later that we said, yeah, we did this. We built a wonderful pipeline for this. I was teaching a course to a pipeline company, and when they saw the image, they had something like "pipelines don't leak," and I was like, "Yeah, okay," but it does leak in IT. In IT, we throw in potential value for a new idea, and then our contextual behavior quite often is. It's suddenly actually we're missing things. Yeah, we don't do that here. Yeah, we don't build apps here. We wait at least 3 years before we start building apps when everyone else is already doing it. We miss opportunities based on the fact is that we did not really understand what the business was trying to do. They said, okay, we want to do this, and then we missed part of that. We see suboptimal design, suboptimal deployment, and then we get to measurements and organizational capability. I do say, yes, there is a lot of value leakage within IT. There is also value leakage in the business. And the fact is, technology by itself has no value. There is no value in technology. The use of technology is where the value is. And one of the things we've seen with that is that BRMs work, for instance, the business relationship managers work with the business to get them to use the systems in a more appropriate way or actually use them sometimes because they buy technology, throw it in, and then they have something, yeah, this is it. So we're actually changing behavior on the business. We do a lot of management of change on the business side to say this is how you need to use that. Because that is one of the things that we see from a value leakage perspective. One of the things I always say, you have to change behavior. You have to change behavior on the business side to be able to be successful, to become a strategic partner. Yeah, that's that maturity model. You also have to start creating business value. This is not about services. This is not about delivering services. This is not about saying I need to see my internal groups as customers. This is around working together in teams. Some examples, I worked with a travel organization where the strategic BRM that was representing the IT organization was a member of the purchasing team of several new Boeing 767 Dreamliners. Based on the fact is they wanted to make sure that the IT perspective was taken into account when they would start configuring the plane. I've seen the bad side as well, unfortunately, with BRM. I've seen BRM teams being told by the rest of IT, we are going to transform you. In the meantime, just set up your BRM team. Yeah, just do whatever you need to do. Talk to those customers, etc., or whatever you call them. Yeah, business partners or something like that. We are in the meantime going to transform IT as we think it needs to be. And this is something that I'm extremely against, because BRMs will have the business perspective that you need to become successful as service managers. I'm fine if you call yourself service managers if you're working on services, etc. But the BRM teams, the effective strategic BRM teams, will bring you strategy, will tell you what the business is going to do, how they're actually going to change, and what the next steps are. And I think this is one of the only way for me to get to that business IT convergence is where there are clear BRM teams that are focused on value and are teaching the rest of the IT organization what value is for everything you do. Business is better when everyone plays in tune. These are the 3 managing partners of our company. We had a little bit of fun. We all play music. Actually, John in the middle there is also, he actually plays guitar. Yeah, this is one of the things for us. Business is better when everyone plays in tune, which means everyone within IT and the business starts to actually go into the right direction, focusing on what needs to be done. And I think a value-focused organization will make a significant difference and might be way more effective to what the business actually wants to do than a service-focused organization, specifically if service-focused is very internal looking and very much inside-out perspective. If you need additional information, BRM Institute, they have they have a membership, they have online campus, etc. There is about, since 2013, when they actually started doing this, they are now close to 15,000 members worldwide. Most of my work at this moment is still in North America, but I see an interest in Europe in some of the larger organizations. I've worked with BRM teams that are maybe very small, and I've worked with very large BRM teams. Most of the very successful BRM teams are reporting to the CIO, and the CIO quickly actually starts to realize how important BRM is for their organization. There is one CIO in North America that has written a book on IT business partnerships, and Joe Topinka, and he's actually really promoting the BRM to a lot of different CIOs, and we start seeing that actually changing. The other thing you'll see, they have conferences. There is one in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's in April. In June, it's in Sydney, Australia. In September, it's going to be Banff, which is my backyard, basically. So I don't think there is any better location than Banff to actually visit for a BRM conference. But some people apparently disagree with that. But it's lovely. It's in the mountains. It's September, so really nice fall colors, etc. Although we can have snow. And then there is one in Amsterdam, which is going to be in October. This is purely focused on BRM. The conferences really are focused on driving or working with BRMs, looking at presentations. We do link to Lean, Agile. We do link to other areas as well, but it's really the BRMs that actually get together. And our website basically has some blog tips, etc. I do some videos, I do some blog articles, etc. Thank you. I have no clue what the time is, and well, apparently perfectly timed. Is there anyone? I mean, if you have questions, you can come to me basically to ask questions. But if there's anything that you want to ask now, that's fine as well. Everyone's looking at like, no, I have no clue what he talked about, and I just need to go to the next one. Yeah. Next is Claire. She's talking about security. So it is secure, cyber security, I think it is. Yeah. So looking forward to that. Great. Thank you very much.